What's up, guys? I hope you're all having an absolutely wonderful day. Today's episode is going to be an interview with one of my favorite clients at Fit for Life Academy because she's been around with us since the beginning, Priscilla. She's absolutely amazing. If you follow me on social media, you probably have heard me talk about Priscilla quite often. And that's because, one, she's just a great person, and her story is truly, truly inspiring. And I hope you guys are enjoying these interview style episodes so far. If you've been tuning in, I'd love to hear from you. Like, either leave a review and let me know what you think, or just send me a message on IG, tag me in stories, let me know what you think, because I definitely want to get feedback on these. Um, Priscilla is amazing. Her story is so inspiring. She was struggling with her health for years before joining us. She acknowledges that she's still a work in progress and continuing to improve every day, but she's been able to come off of weight loss medications, come off of diabetes medications. She's so much stronger. Her day to day life is so much better. Her confidence, her energy. And I'm happy that she took the time to come on the show and was open to sharing that with you guys. So, with that said, let's go ahead and jump into the episode. I hope you enjoy it.
And we
What's up,
can.
Priscilla? How's your day going so far?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I just want to start off by saying thank you so much for taking time to be here today.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm super excited to have this conversation because you have made some really cool progress in terms of health improvements specifically. And I definitely want to take a deep dive into those and highlight those because oftentimes, as you know, like so many people are just looking for weight loss, weight loss, weight loss. And we know that there are so many additional benefits to um, learning how to eat healthy, have a healthy lifestyle, exercise regularly to overall health that doesn't just have to do with weight loss. And your story highlights those perfectly. So let's start off, Priscilla, if you don't mind, by just sharing who you are, where you're from, what does your life look like, and then we'll talk about your journey.
So, my name's Priscilla Duran, and I live in San Antonio, Texas. I currently work for a law firm. I have a home in San Antonio. I have a 12-year-old as well. What does my day look like, or what does it look like? I keep pretty busy. Before I was working two jobs. Now I'm just working one. Yay.
That's
Um,
nice.
but yeah, keeping busy with home, work, juggling family, friends, and obviously my son. So yeah, that's pretty much me in a
Yeah.
nutshell.
And I asked that question intentionally, Priscilla, because um, time is one of the things that people always bring up as not an excuse, but as a reason as to why they have a hard time focusing on health and fitness, right? And I think one of the things that we could probably talk about too is how you were able to develop systems and routines given your busy lifestyle, right? You have a full time job, you're a single mom, you take care of your son, you got a lot going on, and yet you're still making this work. But before we even get into that, how about you start by sharing with us where you were before you found this and started working with us? Where were you from a health perspective and what were your main struggles then?
So the whole reason that I started on this health journey was because I went to my primary care physician and we had to have a very serious talk about my health. My numbers were not improving, they were getting worse. At that point, I was pre-diabetic or possibly on the verge of becoming diabetic, and he was really concerned. And he had this very stern conversation with me, and it was very hard for me to hear, but I needed to hear it in that moment that, hey, listen, you have some choices here. Like your numbers are not improving, they're getting worse. I'm worried about you. Would you want to get on weight loss shots? Would you like to have bariatric surgery? Like these are some options for you. And even though that was a very difficult conversation for him to have, I'm glad he had it because I was about to approach that subject with him anyways, like telling him about my frustrations and my concerns. So if anything, he brought it up before I did, but it would still hurt my feelings. And I cried all the way home and I called my bestie and was like really frustrated and was like, I feel like I'm trying everything I can and so forth. And luckily she helped talk me off the ledge and she was like, listen, it's okay. Like it's just life. You're the strongest person I know. You normally eat pretty healthy in my opinion. And this is somebody who had bariatric surgery. So she was obviously somebody who could like help guide me through it if I had questions or concerns. So needless to say, long story short, I ended up going to a weight loss clinic that they referred me to. It took a couple of months to get in. I was like, yes, finally a solution. Like they're going to give me weight loss injections because they went through all the array of different things they could do. And I'm like, tried that, did that, done that. And they're like, okay. So here we were thinking, weight loss shots. Let's see how these work. And they were great, but not so great. I didn't like what they were doing to my body. to be honest with you. Like, it was great in the sense that it calmed the food noise in my head, right? So, like, I didn't feel hungry. That was awesome.
Hmm.
But I was still eating out of habit. I was still having to make, adjustments and changes. And that was kind of what threw me off a little bit because I was trying to eat healthy, but I was eating fiber and fiber would bloat me. The shots were already making me feel bloated. So I felt super bloated. They constipated me. And I know that's something very personal and I really like to talk about that.
Yeah.
But if you're not used to something like that, it's very difficult to deal with.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, I tried it for a few months because I thought, okay, let's give it a try. And it was amazing at the beginning to help get me started, but it didn't yield the results. Even the doctor was disappointed when I went back for my follow up that I had not lost the amount of weight that she wanted me to in her head. And so I was like, well, then why am I taking these things? Like, it doesn't make sense. I really had to fight them to get off of them because they were worried that I'd get off of them, go back to consuming the way I was consuming before, and then be back asking to get back
Mhm.
on the show. So I just said, no, no, no. I found this great program and they're teaching me all the things that you have been trying to teach me, right? But in smaller bits and pieces. I feel confident moving forward and making an adjustment. So essentially, what the program was offering at the time was just what I needed to be able to see that what I was doing wasn't working. And I felt like at that point I was frustrated and I had tried everything, or maybe not everything, but a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I was just like, none of it was resonating and none of it was landing. And so I needed to do something different. And I'm glad I did it because it helped me take more control over everything, every aspect of my health and fitness. So
Yeah. And I definitely want to take a deeper dive into the things that you tried before. But even before we talk about the things that you were doing before,
yeah.
um, when you had this conversation with your doctor, you mentioned that you had already been trying things prior, and it was really frustrating that you weren't necessarily seeing the results that you wanted to see despite putting in effort. Where do you think your frustrations were coming from? What sort of things were you struggling with? Why were you frustrated?
So because I had tried all these different things before, I had hired personal trainers in the past, but they only gave me a small piece of it, which was, the exercises and the workouts. There was no diet tied into it. And then I
Yeah.
tried fad diets and I tried like low carb, Atkins, Weight Watchers, calorie restriction, keto, you name it, I probably
Yeah.
tried some weird 3-day diet. Like I tried all these things. And then there's so much information being thrown at you on social media too from all these different entities saying, try this will work. Try this will work. And or you have friends or family that have all tried different things. Like I have family that swear by keto. And that's great that it worked for them, but it didn't work for me. Like almost all the things I tried, for the most part, I was lucky to get up to maybe a 20 pounds, like a 20-pound difference. And for somebody who has a substantial amount of weight to lose, 20 pounds is like a drop in the bucket. Like that, I'm not dismissing that, but that just wasn't enough. And so for me, the frustration I had is like, I felt like I was taking 2 steps forward and constantly taking 1 step back. And every time that I couldn't stick to this diet per se,
Mhm.
right? Um, because it wasn't sustainable for me to do so, or because I get frustrated because I wasn't seeing the results, I would just give up and let it go and just be like, screw it. I guess I'm just gonna be chunky for the rest of my life. Like it's
Yeah.
just my life. So I don't know. I was just disappointed each time I tried something new. And it was just so frustrating. And I think it was just trying to take in all the information that was surrounding me and trying to make it fit for me. And none of it was really fitting. So, like,
Yeah.
I was at my wit's end and I was just on the verge of just giving up and saying, okay, well, maybe I should finance surgery. Like, maybe I should go down that route. Like,
Yeah.
it was just very disheartening to constantly be trying and failing, if that makes sense,
Yeah.
or feeling like I failed.
Yeah. And I'm sure with what you know now, it's very easy to see in retrospect why things weren't working, right?
Yeah.
And I definitely want to talk about that. But I have a interesting question, which is, so you mentioned you had this conversation with your doctor, and it was a difficult conversation, and it definitely made you feel upset and not good, right? Anybody would feel it's a difficult conversation, right?
Yeah.
Um, but you are really strong, Priscilla, and you took the feedback in a positive fashion, understanding that he has your best interests in mind. These are things that you should focus on if your health matters to you. And I bring that up because I feel like oftentimes, Priscilla, people just get maybe really defensive
Mm.
and don't self-reflect and aren't honest with themselves and then just continue down the spiral of like doing unhealthy things and then the health gets worse and then now they're a type 2 diabetic. Now, they might have a cardiovascular event, a heart attack, etc. And it's sad, but a lot of people almost need to get to that point before they actually make a change, right?
Yes.
So let me ask you this. What made you realize that you did need to do something different and that this was something that was important to you?
So besides that stern conversation with my doctor, and this, by the way, this doctor was not like a new doctor. He's been my doctor for like 9, 10 years. He's
Mhm.
always had my best interest at heart. He's always believed me every time I'm like, no, I'm trying this, doctor. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Like he's always been like, okay, okay, because my numbers were okay. I was like,
Mhm.
thank goodness for the things I was doing because I was trying to eat well, or to my knowledge, I was eating well.
Yeah.
I was trying to exercise, but a lot of it was cardio focused. I didn't realize, and not necessarily weight focused or, with weights. So it was quite different. And but the point in which he like gave me that reality check and gave like slapped me in the face with that and said, listen, your health is deteriorating. And the fact that I'm aging. And I'll be honest with you, I lost both my parents at a young age. Like
Yeah.
my mom died when I was 17, like a week before my senior year began. And my dad died like a year and a half later when I was in college. I didn't really have a relationship with my dad, but I did with my mom, and that was very hard to see her struggle.
Yeah.
And my biggest fear is I didn't want to leave my son orphaned at a young age,
Yeah.
nor do I want to go through what I saw her go through. So she battled cancer for many years since I was like 8. And so I had her for, thank God I had her for as long as I did, but I saw a lot of suffering. And I just said, no one should have to live their life like that. So to think like I'm kind of close in age to where my mom was when she passed was also another reality check for me that our time here is limited.
Yeah.
And why am I going to live my life being miserable or unhappy when I could live my life to the fullest and enjoy it and do things that bring me joy and to be happy and to feel good? Like I want to now, I'm not going to lie. Part of one of my goals was to live longer than my parents. So my mom died at 52. My dad died at 69. So I was like, okay, if I can live to like 69 or 70, I'm happy. But now that I've changed the way I eat and changed my lifestyle, I feel like I could live to 100.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds crazy, but like I want to be around for as long as I can and enjoy
Of
this
course.
life.
Yeah. And it's not a crazy statement at all. Um, it's like, yeah, our time is limited, but we can do a lot to extend our time.
Yeah.
And not just to extend our time, but to make the time that we're here more enjoyable too, right? And disease free. Because like nobody wants to live with a ton of chronic diseases either. And not just even chronic diseases, because it's not just about things like your blood sugar and blood pressure and whatnot, but it's also your quality of life, right? And how well you can move. Like one thing I want to touch on, which we'll touch on a little bit later, is like you mentioned once you're like, man, picking up what is it, a 20-pound sandbag? Is it 20
Oh
pounds or
no,
maybe
40 pounds because I
yeah,
garden. So
40
yeah,
pounds.
some
You're like,
weekends, 40 pounds.
yeah. Yeah, you told me how much you used to struggle with that. And then as a result of lifting weights and getting stronger, you could do that now and it feels easy. And it's like, I mean, it's still 40 pounds, it's heavy, but just a quality of life, like being able to move pain free, being able to lift things, your back doesn't hurt, your knee doesn't hurt. Like people don't, people maybe aren't as conscious about what sort of impact those things have on your life, even though they're minimal, right? Like some people don't play with their kids because their knee hurts if they get up and run around a little bit. Some people, I see this with my mother-in-law. I love her. She's great. She deals with really bad lower back pain, and it's something she's had for a long time. But she's scared to do a lot of things because she's like, man, if it tweaks my back, I'm out for like 3 or 4 days. I'm like, it must be really tough to deal with those things. And some of those things, unfortunately, are due to injury and you need surgery and this and that. But a lot of those things can be fixed through lifestyle modification as well, which you've been able to experience, which is great. Um, I want to dig a little bit deeper into the things that you've done. So a couple questions here. You mentioned you've tried all sorts of diets, right? Maybe be a little bit more explicit about what things did you try. Knowing what you know now, why did they not stick, right? But in the moment, like, what were your real struggles and challenges? And what I mean by this is like, people say I was frustrated or whatnot, but what were you struggling with in terms of like, was it consistency? Was it not knowing whether what you're doing is working? How did those things make you feel?
So, in reference to the things that I tried, like I said, I was pretty successful on keto and low carb for a short while. Like at the very beginning, like let's say I was able to like lose up to 20 pounds one time, and then it kind of plateaued and stopped. And I sat there and thought, man, I'm trying all these things. And they even at one point during keto, I was actually working out and going to the gym, and I was doing workouts. Again, some of it was cardio. And some of it was like a fitness class or whatever. I think it was called Body Pump or something like that at Gold's Gym. And it was amazing because it did have weights involved, so it was cool and it made it fun. So I was really enjoying it during that time. I was getting a good amount of sleep, like, I was doing all the right things, but I was getting frustrated because I was like, "Why is the scale not moving?" And I was only taught to look at the scale, not take pictures, not measure myself. Scale tells you everything because numbers don't lie, right? And now looking back, I sit there and I go, "Wow, I didn't give myself credit for the changes that were happening in my body. I didn't give myself credit for the fact that I didn't even know how many calories I was consuming while doing keto because my family was we were doing it together as a family and we were eating like the high fat version of keto. So if I look at the number of calories I was consuming a day, unless because it does get to a point on keto where with all the protein you're eating, after a while, you'll start eating less and less of it. So unless you're really being strict in calorie counting, it's really hard to tell how much you're consuming. And it is so easy to go over when it's high fat because you're using oils, you're using fats, you're using all these things. And I still eat all those things now, but I eat them in moderation because I would prefer to be full from protein and fiber. And I like carbs. Man, it was hard not to have carbs. You have no idea a Latina who was raised on potatoes to not be able to eat potatoes. Okay.
Oh my
Like,
God, I'm going to say something funny after, but yeah, go ahead.
like, no. So like I now looking back, I'm now seeing that. And also I was only successful. I struggled a lot even while doing keto. And that was probably the most profound one because when it came to weightlifting, I felt really weak and tired. I didn't realize like that carbs are kind of important and they kind of help with that, right? And I just couldn't understand like why my body was not enjoying this. Like, wait, I'm doing all the things, but yet I didn't struggle with cardio. Like I could be like on an elliptical or on a treadmill or a stair climber all day long, but put me in a weight room and I felt like I got run over by a truck. So to me, looking back now, I'm seeing all the ways in which I made all these attempts, but I was doing things incorrectly and now it makes sense why I wasn't seeing the results I was seeing. And I wasn't celebrating the wins along the way because I was so hypercritical and so focused on the number on the scale. That was all that would matter to me. And even if family told me I was losing weight or I looked good, I was just get so angry looking at the scale and going, why aren't you moving?
Yeah.
And at least I
It,
wasn't gaining weight. I wasn't gaining weight, so that's okay. But it's still frustrating to just see the same number over and over after all the hard work you put in
yeah.
and not feeling a sense of accomplishment.
Yeah, I think it's like when people start on this whole health and fitness thing, they don't realize how much of it is like in your head,
Yeah.
right? And how much the psychological aspect is really important for the long-term consistency. Because even like doing keto, like, hey, if keto worked, that's great. But it's like we almost self-sabotage because we're so hyperfixated on just one thing. We don't know how to speak to ourselves and be like, hey, it's okay if my weight didn't change for a week, right? Because although common sense tells us that it's perfectly fine if your weight didn't change for a week, it's so easy to get in your own head. And it's so easy to hyperfixate on that. And then self-sabotage and just like quit because you weren't seeing the results that you wanted, right? And it's uh, talking about keto specifically because you mentioned high fat version of keto versus high protein version of keto. In reality, there's one version of keto and it's high fat. Like if you eat a lot of protein, the funny thing is that that is not keto
Yeah.
because it doesn't put you in ketosis. And we're getting into a different topic here, but I laugh about this because I see it all the time on social media stuff. It's like, eat a ton of protein and fat and you're in keto. It's like a keto diet is actually a low protein diet because protein can be used to produce glucose. So I'm sure if you were eating a really high protein diet and you did a keto strip test, like you're actually not in ketosis at all. So it's like it's really silly.
Yeah, it was
No,
really hard to hit that, like, there were and there was all these gurus out there saying, like, "Oh, you need to get fat adapted," like, I don't even remember what that means, but, like,
like,
there's just so much stuff they throw out, and it's just like, you're like, "Oh my god," like, I'm not working hard enough, or I'm not eating right, I'm not eating enough, or I'm eating too much, and at the end of the day, like, what it all came down to, it was part of it was portion control. I'm not gonna lie, because obviously somebody has an issue. You're either an incessant snacker, you eat all the time, or you eat all the wrong foods, or you have issues with portion control. And so that's also part of what geared me towards going towards the weight
Mhm.
loss shots, right? Because I was like, okay, if I'm struggling with my portions, maybe this will help me. But
Yeah.
psychologically, it really didn't do anything because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
you still have to make conscious choices. You can still
Yeah.
stuff your face even if your body tells you you're full. Like you still need to make those efforts. So I think I just started taking everything I was learning and I was just feeling really overwhelmed because I'm like, well, this guru over here says this thing, and this person over here says this thing, and oh, my family's doing this. This has worked for my sister.
Yeah.
Like it's great that all these things have worked for other people, but we're all individuals and we're all different and we all have different needs. And because I work out, like my sister was successful on keto, but she doesn't exercise in the same fashion that I do. If she were working out the way I would, she might have been tired like me, or maybe not, 'cause she's
Yeah.
also smaller than me, but we're all different and our systems, our bodies are different, but for the most part, we all respond pretty well to like the same things. It just some
100%.
a little slower than others. And so like I think for me, what was very helpful was getting past the number on the scale and just seeing everything else. And those were the things I lacked in seeing in the past. So like
Yeah.
it reared its ugly head once again in my journey, but now I'm able to see it for what it is. It's a unit of
Yeah.
measurement, but
Yeah.
there's other ways for me to see progress.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was going to mention something here. Um, I
Uh-oh.
just totally blanked regarding.
Aaron?
Oh
Oh,
no, I remember that you mentioned. It comes down to portion control and like whether you're doing keto or whatnot. It's easy to still go overboard. And like my issue with a lot of these diets, Priscilla, is not even that like the diet itself is bad, right? Because like, hey, if you like keto, it works for you. Like, do I think it's the healthiest diet? No. Do I think it's the worst thing in the world? No. It's fine. It's fine. Like if you like it, whatever. We're not looking for perfect. We're looking for what works for you, right? But my issue with a lot of these diets is that the people that push them are very dishonest, right? Or maybe they just don't even understand what they're talking about. Because the truth is, no diet inherently causes weight loss. It just doesn't, right? Because if keto inherently caused weight loss, then the longer you were in keto, the more weight you would lose, and eventually you would waste away and die. And like that would be a very extreme example, but that doesn't happen. You can gain weight and you can lose weight on any diet. And it's the behaviors, right? It's like, how much do you snack? How sedentary are you? How big are your meals? Portion control. And what I see often, Priscilla, when people hop from one diet to the next, they just switch out the foods that they eat a little bit, but the behaviors are exactly the same,
yeah.
right? Like maybe now you're not snacking um, on some fruit. Maybe now you're just snacking on like some nuts because they're high fat and they're keto. It's like in actuality, those are way more calorie dense, and you're probably way better off just eating the apple or two, even if it has some quote unquote sugar, right? But it's hard to realize those things when you're going through it because you just feel like you're the one doing something wrong, and maybe you're not doing keto hard enough, and I need to be more keto. Uh, it's funny
Or
how
you will
the mind
or you
works.
or you vilify foods that most common people eat. Like, you don't understand how freeing it was for me to learn that I could eat other foods, that I could eat carbs. And obviously in moderation, I can't go crazy with them, but, like, it's at the end of the day, I have to look at the calories behind them, but it's so freeing to know, like, I can go on a vacation, I can go on a trip, I can go to a family member's house, I can go to a party, and feel comfortable choosing from the foods that are there as opposed to saying, "I'm restricted. I can only eat these things. And if
Yeah,
these things aren't at the party, I'm not eating, or I gotta eat before, or be a weirdo and take my plate with me and go like, no offense, guys, but I'm on a diet."
yeah,
I just didn't want to live that way. So to a certain degree, this has really provided me that freedom and that flexibility. And you have no idea how much weight that has lifted off of me.
yeah,
Like, not physically, but like,
yeah,
that just how much lighter I feel
yeah,
not having to feel so restricted in what I eat. That's
yeah.
just freed me in so many ways. And I think it's also helped shift things mentally for me and psychologically.
Yeah, I think what you're saying right now ties perfectly into the next thing I wanted to ask, which was when you were going through this, right? And you were frustrated and you were trying all of these different things and things seemingly weren't working despite how hard you were trying, how did that affect things like your confidence, your energy, your day-to-day life?
I was miserable. Like, I mean, on the outside, everybody saw this picture perfect, like I was okay, but inside dying, like going like frustrated, like getting more and more upset. constantly having to pull myself out of like a negative mindset of like like I said, I would felt like I would take 2 steps forward and one back and 2 steps forward and one back. So constantly feeling this stress and anxiety when it came to like all the things because this one part of my life I had no control over. And the more loss of control you feel about something, the more you obsess about it. And so for me personally, I feel like learning all the things I've learned, implementing all the things I'm implementing and making all the changes I've made have helped lighten that load on for me mentally and have helped me see things in a different light. Also being kinder to myself because I've always been super critical of myself since I was young. And it maybe even started since I was little when my mom was critical of me. So maybe that voice was still in my head of, you're not good enough or you're never going to be skinny enough or like you need to lose weight. Like I really don't know, but it was just beautiful to be able to switch that around and just say and have more grace and say like, I'm work in progress. It's okay. I'm okay with not losing an immense amount of weight right away, dropping weight like I did in the past. That's awesome. But those were fad diets. They're not designed to be long term. We are not going to have long term results from that. It's okay. Like it's okay to lose weight slowly. It's okay to do it because the hope is that we lose weight and we keep it off. Because in the past we haven't kept it off.
Yeah.
We've gone back up in weight, right? So constantly having to talk myself off the ledge and from preventing myself from self sabotage, preventing myself from going into a negative mindset and on the verge of giving up at times and going, nope, just stick it through. Just do a little bit today. Just do what you can. It's okay. Maybe today you didn't get to work out. It's okay. That's what tomorrow's for. You can push it to tomorrow. It's not a big deal. Okay, you ate kind of badly today. That's okay. Tomorrow you start all over. Like just having a more forgiving and loving mindset when it came to myself, my health, and my body has really helped lighten the load, like just lighten things in my own life and my mental state. Because I'll be honest, if you had talked to me before, when I was at my worst, I would probably just be like, I don't know why the hell I'm doing any of this. Like, I give up. Uncle, I'm done. So I'm kind of glad that I'm stubborn and I stuck through and I persevered and I said, no, this isn't going to be me. Even if it takes my entire life, I will figure this out because I'm into puzzles. I'm into like games. I'm into like figuring stuff out. I'm
Oh,
that type of person. And so I was like, even if it takes me my entire life, I will figure this out and I will get past it because I'm not gonna allow this to defeat me. Like it was just I don't know how to explain it, but it really did shift my mindset. Having the knowledge I have, working with all the things I've been working with, doing all the things I've been doing, and seeing the changes in my body and how I feel, like all of that had positive impacts in reference to not just my relationships, but my mental health. And so for me, I went from a place of like, man, do I need counseling? Like, do I have some like child wounds or something I got to heal because my mom and what she did to me? Because I'm not gonna lie, that really did mess with me a little bit. Your mom telling you you need to lose weight or constantly pushing diets on you from a young age. You and I have both talked about
yeah.
how that happened to both of us. But for me, it was worse on a psychological level.
Yeah.
It didn't have this like, we have the same similar stories, but very different outcomes. And so I, as a mother, now have more grace in that situation because I've been put in the same situation with my son, but I learned to go about it a different way because I was so scared of, messing him up psychologically. So I've just been living by example
Yeah.
instead of pushing the agenda and just teaching him to be more intuitive and be like, how does that feel after you eat those cookies? Oh, it felt great, but now I'm feeling tired. "Mhm, yeah, that's the sugar. It's okay." And then like, oh, how'd you feel after having that protein for dinner? Wow, I was really satiated, mom. I didn't get hungry for hours. So teaching him little things like that, where I'm kind of dropping nuggets and seeds, I feel is helping me heal on a mental and emotional level too
Yeah.
from stuff I experienced growing up. So
Yeah.
that's the beauty is like, oh, I get to do things differently than what was done to me, and it's very healing. And my hope is that my son sees the efforts I'm making and says, okay, I'm going to learn from my mom. I'm seeing her make these changes. I want to make, and recently he told me I wanted to make those changes too. So it's beautiful to see it come from him and not me forcing it down his throat. So
100%. I can relate to everything you said so much where like I'm such a big believer of leading by example.
yeah.
because my experience as a kid was similar to yours, where there was no leading by example. It was just like, you're going to do this because I said so. And it doesn't matter if you kick, scream, cry, doesn't matter. Right. And some of those behaviors my mom modeled, some of them were relatively hypocritical, but I knew how much I hated the way I felt in those circumstances. Like as a kid, you feel like you have no control. It's just what your parents say, whether you agree with it or not. And like, I don't vibe with that at all. And yeah, I was just talking about this on the interview I did with Axel yesterday, which for those of you guys listening, I think we released that, hopefully, if I get it right, last week, last Thursday. So definitely go ahead and check that out if you didn't, because it was a great conversation too. But with my son, like when it comes to healthy food behaviors, like, I mean, my son's way younger than yours. He's 2. But kids are picky and he doesn't want veggies, right? And so like what we do is I don't force him to eat it. I just put it on his plate. And like if he doesn't want it, it's all good. And I will put it on my plate and I'll sit next to him and I'll eat it. And I'll tell him it makes me strong because he knows what being strong is now. Because he like we'll get an Amazon package and like he can't move the box. And I'll be like, I'll tell him, Junie, you have to get strong. And I'll pick it up and I'm gonna see Baba's strong and I can pick it up. So he understands the concept of strong and he's like, I want to be strong. So I'm like, if you eat this, it makes you strong. And now he's like open to trying those things. And we put some meat on his plate and he didn't want to eat it. And I was like, if you eat that, you're going to be able to move the box. And he ate it all. And he's like, look, Papa, I'm strong. And then we celebrate that to re-encourage those positive behaviors. And it's like, I'm not going to judge anybody for the way they parent, but I think, in my opinion, that's the right way to parent and try to encourage your kid to do the things that they want to do. One thing that we talked about too is like, we often don't think about like the second order and third order effects of the things that the things that we do have, right? Like, if you do healthy things and your son sees you do healthy things, he's more likely to want to do it. And then if he starts doing healthy things, maybe his friends want to start doing healthy things. And then it creates like camaraderie around his friends and he feels good and he's teaching them something. So it's like a small little action can have a really massive impact and we often don't think about that.
Yeah.
Um, but let's no more philosophy because I could talk about this forever. Making it about you again. So obviously you were in a tough spot. You were dealing with a ton of different struggles. How did you find Fit for Life Academy, and what encouraged you to join us? Was there something that stood out about our approach or our message?
So it started with one of my nieces who absolutely adores you saying, I think you should follow this guy on social media. He's really good. Stuff's evidence based. She's scientific. She's, a data scientist. So she loves data. And so she's like, I really think you should follow him. He's really cool. So I started following you and I got invited to listen to, I think I requested your ebook or something like that. And that's how it got started. I heard about Fit for Life and it was just what I needed at that time because I was already working with weight loss doctors and they too were scientifically based, obviously, as doctors. And the things that they were trying to show me and explain to me over several visits was not really resonating because they were just throwing so much data at me and it was just really overwhelming. So finding this program and you taking the time in the program to be able to give me bite-sized pieces of all the data and information they were throwing at me at once was beautiful because I got to take it and absorb it bit by bit and apply it bit by bit as opposed to being thrown all of these changes and saying, here, go, it was just like, here's a nugget, here's a little bit, planting seeds, just like I said with my son, right? Like planting seeds, planting seeds. So me being able to take it in bit by bit and implement step by step was amazing. So when I saw the program that, the evidence based, the talking about the hyper, I can never say that,
Hypertrophy.
hypertrophy training, I had never heard that term before. Like there was just so much stuff that just resonated. It just made sense. And because you were
Mhm.
able to provide data to support all of it, I was like, okay, if this doesn't work, I'm done. As my son would say, I'm cooked. Like I'm done. Right. So I was just like, I'm gonna give this a try. This is my last thing. But it kind of went hand in hand with what I was already doing with the weight loss clinic. So it just made total sense for me. And that's why I decided to join. And I'm just really grateful for it because it came at just the right time because I was not enjoying those shots. And I was just like, I don't know how long I can do this. I'm going to stick it out. And I'm glad I did because it allowed me to implement the changes I need to make to be able to get off of them and feel comfortable doing so.
Yeah. Yeah. So much stuff to talk about here. One thing, because you mentioned something that's really important, that like the doctors in the weight loss clinic that you were going to were pretty much telling you to do the same things that we told you to do, right? Like,
Well,
correct.
kind of,
Pretty
no.
similar.
So the doctor, the primary doctor was telling me, I want you to do low carb, no
Okay.
fat. Okay. So mainly veggies and meat. Stay away from fruit. Fruit is evil. Okay. But then I went to the dietitian because this is the type of weight loss place that if you're wanting to go get bariatric surgery, you've got to check all the boxes, right? For insurance purposes. So then they sent me to a dietitian and the dietitian's like, whoa, no, I want you to eat a little bit of everything, but I want you to, this is where she tied into what you say. We want you to eat more whole foods. We want you to eat less processed foods. Let's focus on healthy behaviors, healthy habits, yada, yada. And I only had a small number of visits with her, right? And at some point before my insurance lapsed with them or they weren't able to take my insurance anymore and I ended up getting off the shots, my last visit with her, she was telling me she had a similar program when I told her about Fit for Life, but it was more plant-based. So I could have gone that route if I wanted. She said, you don't have to become vegan or plant-based, but this will help give you recipes to help you feel more satiated, more full. So she was already kind of teaching me some of the things, but we didn't have the time that I've had with the program where I can ask questions and Q&As, where I can get feedback, where I can even engage other members to help me or like, hey, I'm kind of struggling with this, like I just, that the community aspect at first, it was a little weird to me. I'm not going to lie. Cause I was like, how can I trust complete strangers with and be vulnerable with
Yeah.
my personal struggle and be okay with this? But I'm so glad I did it. So
Yeah.
yeah, when I came across it, it was almost like divine timing. Like it was exactly what I needed at that time. And I'm just so glad that I came across it. And I'm so glad that I requested your book.
Yeah.
And that
I'm glad
really
you requested
is.
my book.
Yeah.
Uh, no, but I,
You're
I
able.
want to talk about a really important concept here. So,
Yeah.
doctor gave you shitty advice, dietitian was giving you good advice.
Yeah.
But what I often say, because here's the thing, like, I'm sure there are a lot of people listening to this, Priscilla, who think like, how beneficial can a coaching program be when I already know what I need to do? I need to eat healthy, I need to exercise, but I can't do it, right? And what I always say is that coaching is not necessarily about telling people what to do. Most people, sure, they're not a nutrition scientist, but like if you told somebody, hey, what does eating a little bit healthier look like? They probably know. Maybe they
Yeah.
don't know how to train weights like super effectively, but they know how to do something, right? And they could Google, hey, workout program, and it's going to be pretty good. But for some reason, they're still not doing it consistently. They're still not seeing the results. So much of it is psychological. And what I always say is that coaching is not about helping, or coaching is not about telling people what to do. It's about helping them actually implement it in a way that fits their lifestyle and that is sustainable and that over time becomes enjoyable, right?
Yes.
Because Priscilla, telling you to eat 150 grams of protein is not the same as asking you or you telling us, hey, I'm struggling to get that. Okay, what are you having for breakfast? Let's talk about some small shifts that you can make to increase the protein intake there. And now, once we get the breakfast in place, let us know how that's going. Now, let's look at your lunch and like actually helping you troubleshoot.
Yes.
That's the big difference, right? Because it's the same with like, I don't know, I think there are a lot of parallels with the fitness stuff and like the business stuff. And I only think that because like I'm so new to this whole business thing, but it's like there's all these people that tell you like it's so easy to get to this financial level or whatever. And all you have to do is this. And it seems simple. And then you try to do it. And it's like, oh my God, it's actually not simple at all. And I have a million questions. And I have nobody to ask the questions to. Right. So that's the type of feeling that people have where it's like, man, getting the support and the guidance really helps you troubleshoot the day-to-day struggles.
Yeah.
So I'm
And the
happy that you really
accountability.
highlight that. Yeah,
Yeah, and
go
the
ahead.
accountability, because that's where I was lacking. So, like, okay, was going to this weight loss clinic, had all these doctors to go see a psychologist. They were trying to send me to a sports med doctor, and I'm like, no, 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 I'm already working out. I don't need that because God forbid I have one more doctor I have to see. Like, it
You're
was
right.
just overwhelming and just too much, right? Like, you're already throwing way too much at me. Slow your roll. So, honestly, like having the ability to have someone hold you accountable, that was also very helpful because none of these doctors were holding me accountable other than when I went back for my next visit. And then you tell them your struggles or what you were experiencing. And it's not like they were live there with you, holding your hand, because at the very beginning is when you're most vulnerable. The very beginning, if you're not seeing the results you want, if you're not feeling great yet, like it takes time. So it's the type of thing that it's like progress over perfection, right? Small little steps will get you there. But we're so inundated with wanting fast results and unrealistic expectations of how we see ourselves and what we're capable of that I think that's part of what would normally disappoint most people and get them to stop in their tracks and say, this isn't working. I'm going to give up. But
Yeah.
if they had an accountability, if they had someone holding them accountable saying, hey, are you doing your workouts? How's it going with your nutrition and stuff? What are you struggling with? What do you need help with? Like that was just, I cannot tell you like how much that really helped me because that was my struggle. There was nobody here. My son wasn't waking up in the morning going, hey mom, did you work out today? Like, why are you eating a burger right now? You're supposed to be
Yeah.
eating healthy. Like, and I wouldn't want my kid to do that either, right?
Yeah.
But I'm just saying there's nobody, sometimes you're by yourself in this journey or you feel alone, but you don't have to be. You're
Yeah.
alone because you choose to be, but you don't have to be because you can find a program or you can find a community or you can involve others around you and say, hey, I'm trying to implement healthier lifestyle choices and live a healthier lifestyle. And you don't necessarily have to have them do it with you, but if you can get their support, it helps immensely as well. So
Yeah.
like that is exactly what I needed as well. It's just
Yeah.
that.
No, accountability is huge. People don't even think about that. It's like if you have no way to stay accountable, then you're probably not going to stay accountable if it's something that's completely new to you too, right? It's so easy to be just like, oh, that's hard. I'll just focus on it tomorrow, like this, that, right? Let me ask you this. Did you have any sort of doubts about coaching before joining?
Yeah, because I had joined another online fitness program before with another online coach years ago. And I didn't have a very good experience with that. Like it was good in the beginning because it was cool. Like he offered, like she showed me, like I had a similar app to Everfit where I had my workouts, but those exercises were very simple and basic, just so you know. And then in addition to that, he did give me a diet. And so the diet had recipes and meal plans, which was awesome because I didn't really know how to cook healthy foods. I knew how to cook unhealthy foods. So here I was trying to transition into cooking healthier foods, but it became so expensive over time because these are foods I would not normally buy. There was asking for spices I would not normally cook with. Like I wasn't, and even though I love variety, because I like to cook and I like variety, it was frustrating because it just was getting to be expensive. And I was like, I can't, I can't afford this. And so at some point I had to stop, but I also had to stop because my trainer stopped investing in me. Like questions weren't being asked. Like when I was getting frustrated and saying like, how come I'm not losing weight? He didn't sit there and go, it's okay. It's a journey. You're not always going to see the weight come off. Like, let's look at your photos. Like he wasn't guiding me and he didn't educate me. And one time I had a really bad accident and the doctors pulled me away from working out. And this blew my mind because then at that point he's like, oh, no big deal. We won't do the workouts. We'll just be stricter in your diet because that's where you lose weight anyways. And I was like, what? You're making me work out and do all these things and I don't even need to be doing it. He's like, no, it's just the icing on top. And I was like, what? Like, so now he opened up a can of worms. I had so many questions that he didn't have time to answer. So he left me feeling it's almost like reading a book and just like never being able to finish and get to the end and get to like the core part of it, the important part. I'm the type of person that needs to know the why. And if you give me the why, it makes total sense to me and I can implement it and I can take it and I can be gracious with it. So had he just told me, listen, Priscilla, your goals are unrealistic. You're only going to be able to lose X amount of weight. Or it's okay if you lose it slowly but steadily. It's okay as long as your weight's not going up. It's okay. You're building muscle. Like if he had just gone into like more explanation of why I was struggling or why I wasn't seeing the results, I think I would have been happier and maybe even continued with this program. But at some point when he stopped investing in me and he stopped, I don't know, like having that relationship where we could have these
Mm.
kinds of talks and get to the nitty gritty and try to help me problem solve. I felt like at that point he checked out. And because of that, I checked out too.
Yeah. Yeah, that
And
makes
he
sense.
wasn't holding me accountable anymore either. So I was just like, oh, so I'm just a money train for you. I mean, I'm gonna be very frank. Like I was just very frustrated. So I was skeptical coming into the program because of that experience. But I was just so blown away and overwhelmed by everything I experienced that now I talk to everybody about the program. So I'm not trying to sell anybody on it right now, but like every time I talk to friends or family, they almost feel like I work for Fit for Life. So when you offer me a job, you let me know, Dr. Joy. Because frankly, Lloyd's talking about it.
That is too funny.
Well, don't ask my family because they all know. So yeah,
No,
but
that's
I just know that like, because I've been there, I've been frustrated, I've been upset, I've been at my wit's end, I've been at the point of like screw it. I'm just going to give up. Like maybe it's just not meant for me to get there. Like I've been to that point and if I could pull somebody out of that, if I could help encourage
Yeah.
somebody to know that they're not alone and that they will feel that way a year from now or however long, 6 months, a few months in, like either way, like that to me would be immensely rewarding.
Yeah.
So that's just the way that I see it personally.
Yeah. No, totally agree with you. And I've told you this a million times, but we're really grateful for your support. It really does mean a ton. Let me ask you this, because we've talked a lot about your particular challenges and where you were.
Mhm.
Do you mind sharing a little bit about what your results, win, progress have been so far?
Yeah. So I did lose some weight initially when I first started and gained a little bit of weight around the holidays. Bum, bum, bum. But I had two
Fair.
vacations, 2 out of 3 vacations I went on in the last year, which that's way more vacations than I'm normally used to. I lost weight during vacation, which was a first for me. That's never happened before in the past. I've always gained 5 to 10 pounds easily. And again, could be water weight, lack of sleep, or just eating very well. I was more mindful on those vacations, but I didn't completely restrict myself. So my experience overall, even though the weight has not really budged much on the scale, unlike before where I'd get really frustrated and go, screw this, I'm out. I now look at all the things like progress photos. Because when you're thick like me or you're chunky, you don't, I've told you this, I've shared this with you before, you don't take a lot of full body pictures. So progress photos have been immensely helpful because me taking a full body picture, I'm able to see the progress that I've made from the beginning. I'm able to see my body transforming and changing. And so even if the scale doesn't replicate what I'm seeing physically on photos, if I don't have that, I have my family and friends that every time they see me, they're like, wow, you look smaller. And then I'm just giggling in my head because I'm like, not per the scale. So I've had to stop using the scale as my point of reference. Again, it's just a unit of measurement. I now look at how do I feel in my clothes? I feel better. I look better. I'm able to wear smaller clothes. I'm able to fit into clothes that were in my closet and I wasn't able to fit into before, right? I'm feeling better. I'm looking better. I'm feeling more confident. I have people tell me I have a glow to me. I don't see it, but okay. And I feel like I'm coming back to being who I am and I'm loving myself in the process and I'm enjoying the process. So at the beginning, it was a struggle because I was like, you want me to do what? You want me to do what? And then just like, okay. And just, it was hard to trust the process. It was so hard to trust the process in the beginning. But I was like, wait, I'm paying this money. I'm part of this program. I may as well take full advantage of it. Screw it. Let's do it. I'm going to give in. What do you want me to do? You tell me to go do 10 jumpy jacks, I'll go do 10 jumpy, like whatever you say, right? And I gave in to the process and I started to really enjoy it. And I was like, wow. And now I don't see my life the way I used to see it before. I now see myself as a person who's making healthier choices and who loves themselves enough to make those choices and doesn't want to go back to where I was. And if I could go back to where I was a year ago, I'd tell myself this is how I'd feel, I would do this 10 times. I would have wished I would have found the program earlier. Wasn't in existence yet, but still, like I'm just sitting there looking at how far I've come. So I'm stronger. I feel better. I'm more confident in my skin. That was a really big struggle for me. I've been able to get past a lot of things that make me uncomfortable because somebody here challenged me and told me well, I needed to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Do you remember that conversation, Dr. Joey,
Of
where you
course.
said, Priscilla, suck it up? So I remember telling you, I don't want to share videos. I don't want to share photos. I don't know. Why do you want me to do this? And you're like, just do it. Just get comfortable being uncomfortable. And now I'm so glad you challenged me to do that. That was really hard for me, but I've gotten past that. And I'm so grateful to you for that because that is exactly what I needed. And now I'm teaching that to my son. Like every time he's uncomfortable, I'm like, nope, it's okay to be a little uncomfortable,
Yeah.
but that's how we grow. So I've just gained so much from this that, and obviously feeling better about the food choices that I make, just having a better relationship with food, that right there, chef's kiss,
Yeah.
right? Because I'm a foodie and I do like food. So for me to be able to say, I can still enjoy food, I'm just making different choices or I'm just implementing like different things. Like that's just been a beautiful part of it. And just the healing that's involved because there was so much guilt behind every time I ate something I shouldn't or every time I overate. Like to be able to have grace in situations where I'm imperfect and where I'm not necessarily making the best choices, and just reminding myself that that's okay. This was just a lapse in judgment or a lapse in choice in that moment. It's okay. It's not going to kill me. I can get back to it tomorrow or later on today. I'll get back on track with, eating better. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. It's just a variety of things that in my opinion has just enriched my life, and everybody around me can see it. Friends, family, everybody can see it. And it's funny. I've even, without trying, a lot of them have even come to me and said, "Oh, because of the changes you've made, I'm considering changing my diet." And others have said, "Wow, because of the changes I've seen in your body, I'm now going to start lifting weights." And I'm like, wow, like, so to see you encourage others
Yeah.
without meaning to is also a beautiful thing, because I'm not here to try to sell them all on this program, although I have tried. At the end of the day, they have to be ready or willing to make that change. And they have to know that they have to be. So I think for a lot of people, they're scared because they don't know what to expect, right? And others, they're scared because they know it's going to be a commitment of time. But if I could tell them it's a worthwhile investment, investing in yourself and your health is a worthwhile investment because it's going to pay you back tenfold as you get older. You're going to be more mobile. You're going to have less pain. You're going to feel better. Your skin's going to look great. Like, if I could tell them all the benefits and wrap it into one package, they'd all buy it. But they have to be willing to put in the work
Yeah.
and to give up the resistance, which is what a lot of us have when we're choosing a program or trying to find the right fit for ourselves.
Yeah. No, I agree with everything you said. And I do want to bring it back to the original question of
Did I go off?
no, it's okay. I want to bring it back to the original question of what are your results and progress so far? Because I think you skipped some of the most important things, which are your improvements in health,
Oh, yeah.
right?
I'm sorry.
So,
So
like,
my health markers
brag
have been.
about brag about your results. Don't motivate people. Brag about your results.
Okay.
Medication, your blood sugar, which you were struggling with, right? So the health things that you were struggling prior with, how are those things looking now? In addition to that, you've mentioned some really great things about strength, because I feel like when I talk about or bring up the question of what's your progress been, people immediately go to the weight loss side of things. Beyond that, what have your wins been?
Sorry, I forgot about that. So look, that's
It's
how,
all
right,
good.
my feeling health-wise that I forgot I was diabetic. So I was diagnosed with diabetes and I was put on medication around the same time I had started the weight loss medication. And it's funny because I thought the weight loss medication was what got me to no longer be diabetic. And at one point when I went back to the diet doctor, right, the doctor that was doing the diet plan with me or whatever, the weight loss doctor, she said, "No, honey, this had everything to do with the choices you've been making." And I was like, "What?" She goes, "Yeah, no, these shots don't do that for you." I was like, "Oh, okay." So it was awesome to like then be told like, "Okay, you're no longer diabetic." But then normally they can't tell you that. I think they said something like it takes 2 or 3 consecutive blood pulls for them to
Sure.
be able to completely tell you you're no longer. But each blood pull I've had since then also showed me in good numbers. So my numbers went down. My blood pressure has been stable. I've always had issues with blood pressure, even while on medication. But now, because of the working out and eating better, my blood pressure, every time they take my blood pressure, it's amazing. So the goal my doctor had for me next is like, okay, our next goal is going to be to get you off the blood pressure meds. And I was like, yeah. So like, I feel like every time, instead of going to the doctor and being like, oh crap, what are they going to find now? Like, I go in there going, I can't wait for him to see, like, for us to see the result and see where I'm at, in reference to my blood work. So that's one thing. The other one would be just the strength that I've gained. So I love the fact that when I first started, I could barely lift like 10-pound weights. And I had weights like 5, 10, 15, all the way up to 20 pounds. And I thought, man, my 20 pounders, those were hard to lift. I remember really struggling. And now, like, there was an exercise, the RDL, where I was only using 10 pounds when I first started. Now I'm able to do it with 95 pounds. Like, and this has been over almost a year. So again, I'm not claiming like, oh, I'm going to go become this like bodybuilder or anything, but it's nice to know that I slowly with time gradually increase that weight and that I'm able to challenge my body in ways that I didn't think I could do. And like you mentioned earlier, because I garden, lifting those 40-pound bags of compost before were like, dang, this is hard and heavy. And now I lift them with ease. It's like, I could do like 10 of these. Am I sore the next day? Absolutely, because it's a lot of lifting. But it's still like to sit there and go, wow, I can do things with more ease. I have less pains and struggles in my body. I feel better. I have more mobility. I'm more flexible than I used to be because I was like, there's no way. And one day it triggered to me while doing the exercises that, like, in the stretch position is where you get the best stretch, or in certain part of the position of an exercise, you get an intense stretch. And I always thought that it would just shorten the muscles and make you tighter. I didn't know that it would help loosen you with time. And I would see these videos of like you and Bernardo going so low on some of your stuff. And I was like, how can they go so low? And I didn't realize they've been doing this for years. And so they've had the ability. But when that light bulb moment happened for me, I was like, wow, I just learned something that in all these years of having personal trainers in the past, and all these years of knowing people in the fitness industry and all these people I follow, no one's ever cared to explain that benefit. I was able to physically feel it and see it myself and acknowledge it on my own because I experienced went from feeling really tight to now feeling like more loose and limber. I don't know. I don't really think that's important, but for me, it is as an age because I
It's
want to be able
definitely
to get out of
important.
bed. So
It's
yeah, like
definitely important.
those are
You know how
some of
many people like can't even tie their shoes standing up because like their hamstrings are too tight? It's like
mhm,
really simple things. Like we don't think about this, right? Like how many people have to like grab their shoes and go to a place and sit down in this one particular situation, and then it's uncomfortable to put on shoes, but like simply because they just can't bend over because their hamstrings are too tight,
yeah.
right? So it's like, yeah, they're very small things, but they compound. And the last thing I was going to bring up about your wins that's really cool too is that thanks to the fact that you have been really focused on developing healthy habits, you've been able to come off of weight loss medication,
Yes.
right? Which was one thing that you mentioned at the beginning, and we talked a lot about that. Like, it's very beneficial. It's very beneficial for some specific people, but some people have side effects, and you felt uncomfortable and bloated, and you didn't like the way it made you feel. And you're like, I really want to come off this. And you shared with us, like, how your doctor was resistant to it, but you really felt confident and you've been able to come off of it and like not rebound. Right. And that's just as a byproduct of really developing healthy behaviors.
I struggled a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. I probably didn't voice, like, the struggle because the hunger did
Okay.
come back, so it did come back and
Yeah.
it was bad, but I got past it. I think for me, the most important part is that it was triggering me to a time in my teens where I developed a eating disorder, and I just when it was triggering me, that's when I was like, "Doc, I need to get off of this," and then once I explained to them the psychological part of it, I was like, "Listen, in my teen years, I developed a little something called exercise bulimia. I was eating very little, and I was exercising a lot, and I was having to take things to help me go to the bathroom because obviously I wasn't eating a lot, and I didn't have any education, any of that at that time, right? And then my mom looked the other way because she didn't care. I was losing weight. That's all that mattered to her. And so, like, I was just astounded. And that's my biggest fear with my kid is like, I don't want him to create an eating disorder
Yeah.
because I'm too focused. Like, I want to teach him to do things the right way, and make good choices instead of doing things in an unhealthy way. And I saw progress for sure, but I did it in such an unhealthy way. And I still didn't feel good about myself. Like now, I don't know. I just feel like when I realized it was triggering me and it was bringing me back to that place that I felt I left behind so long ago, I was like, no, I don't want to go back there. Get me
Of
off this
course.
immediately. So that's part of it. Now, maybe if someone's not had an eating disorder or had disordered eating in the past, maybe they're not as impacted. Like I have other friends or family that are on those shots and they didn't have this, they weren't triggered. But
Yeah.
somebody like me who experienced that as a teenager did not want to go back to that. And so I was like, okay, but you're right. I felt confident. And the only reason I was pushing and saying, no, I can do this, I don't need the shots anymore, was because I was already implementing all the healthy habits I had learned. And I felt that with everything I had learned and everything I was doing, I'd be fine. And I am. It took me a little bit to get adjusted to the hunger again, but I'm okay with it.
Yeah. But also your hormones take some time to regulate, right?
Yes.
Because in GLP-1 agonists, like you're down regulating your body's natural production of GLP-1 and you stop taking it, it takes some time to get production back up. It's the same as like when people take TRT. If you're taking testosterone, for example, and you stop taking it, it takes a while for your body to stimulate production again to where it was, right? So there's a latency period where you feel kind of shitty,
Yeah.
but your body gets back to normal.
I
Let
didn't
me
know
go
that
ahead.
I didn't know GLP was something that your body created either. I just recently learned that listening to another podcast too, where I was like, "Oh, that's something your body creates. Oh, you can do that with eating. I think I'm already there." because I've noticed I've been portioning better, like eating smaller portions. And so I was like, huh, like again, at least that's useful knowledge. Like a lot of the knowledge I've gotten in the past where it's just been like throwing out stuff so they can sell you something. Like this was like, oh, this was useful. I put that in my little tool bag. Like, okay, well, that makes sense now. Cause I always wondered, like, is it just me? Am I the only one that has issues with hunger? Or like, how do you explain all these other people who are skinny and they're not having these struggles? Like, what the heck? Like, so it's nice to know that eventually you can flip that switch and eventually your body will create the hormone that's needed and you don't need to get it from a shot. Like you can actually create it within your own body or your body will create it on its own,
Yeah.
given the right diet or the right foods.
I mean, it's a complex thing. Like
Yeah.
everybody produces GLP-1. Some people's brains aren't as sensitive to it. It's not just GLP-1. There's ghrelin, there's leptin, there's a whole host of hormones. But regardless, this is one of the benefits of like resistance training and exercise in general. People are like, exercise is not important for weight loss. Objectively, it's really not. Like you could just diet and lose weight. But exercise helps regulate all of these things as well, right? Like exercise helps regulate things like GLP-1 and ghrelin and leptin. So they have an effect on your hunger regulation and your food choices. So it's not as black and white as saying like exercise, you need it or you don't need it. Like I hate when people simplify things.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this,
Well,
Priscilla.
it's
Go ahead.
probably because they no, I was just gonna say it's probably because they don't wanna lose somebody and going into, like, the weeds of something, or they're worried about, like, that one trainer, maybe he was worried that he was gonna open up a whole can of worms. Because once he told me that, he blew my mind. I was like, "I can lose weight with just diet alone? Are you kidding me? Why are you making me work out then?" He's like, "It's just the icing on top. That doesn't help me. I'm not making a cake. What do you mean? Talk to me. Give me, like, real
Yeah.
scenarios here. Like, what are we looking at? Why is this important, or why are you asking me?" So now to know why I was being asked to do the things I was being asked to do, be able to comprehend it in that way so that I could understand it, so that I would feel more comfortable implementing that also was really vital. Because when you don't know, you just believe everything that everyone tells you. But if you have somebody who's saying, this is scientifically based, I have data to support this theory, I have data to support this answer, really helps you feel like, they know what they're talking about instead of just somebody who's talking out their butt. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's just kinda how I felt. I was like, "This guy, he's not knowledgeable, or maybe he didn't have a nutrition degree, so he could only speak to a certain amount." And he was probably right because he had enough clients that he probably tweaked their calories and it was sufficient. But he also never asked me to show him my calories either. Like, I never took photos of my food and said, "Well, here's what I'm sending," and then he could have been like, "That's not really a cup of rice," or whatever. Like, I don't know, like, there was just so much of a disconnect there that I really wish there had been better communication, and maybe if there had been better communication, it would have been a better outcome, but I'm just glad that I had it's almost like a it's almost like a bad relationship, like, sometimes you can't appreciate a good one until you've had a bad one,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying he didn't try, bless his heart, he really did try, but it yeah. I just feel like I've just learned so much more in this program and doing this and doing things this way. And I'm just so happy that I found it when I did because I was quite ready to just call it quits and go, okay, well, shots aren't even
Yeah.
working, then I don't know what to do. Like I was just yeah, I was there. And so I'm just grateful.
How have all these positive changes impacted your life?
It's been good. Like I don't know, like I just feel more I know it says lighter, not physically lighter, but lighter spiritually, lighter emotionally. I feel like I've healed a lot of some old wounds when it came to food and the taboo of food and my relationship with food. That's been major. The fact that I can lift weights. I mean, I have my own little at-home gym. I'm so excited about that. Like, I've always, again, it's not like a major gym. It's like small, but it's perfect for me because one, I don't really like going to the gym because I don't like having to wait for machines. And then there's all these bros there at the gym, and it's just not for me, not right now in my life. But it's nice because I have a kid, and so I don't feel like, "Oh, man, like, I can't go to the gym because I have my son this week," or whatever. Like, it's kinda nice to be able to go to the gym whenever I want and not to have to wait and to have that. So it's positively impacted my life to where I now enjoy working out. I now enjoy getting my steps in and being more mobile because I was not mobile before. Like, I wasn't exercising enough to assist with the amount of food I was eating before. Like looking back now, I'm seeing like, wow, since making these changes, like I do feel better. So feeling better overall, seeing improvements in my health, seeing improved strength, seeing my relationships around me blossom because I finally started giving to myself and filling my own cup so that I could be there for others. Because I've always been the type that's always been there for other people, but always put myself last. So being a mom, that's just kind of part of it. Like a parent, that's just something that happens specifically with your kids. But I've had to learn to like step back and go like, no, no, let me make sure that I take care of my needs because if I don't take care of my needs, I can't be around years from now to take care of my son's needs, right? So I love that this allowed me to pour back into myself and do something for me that gives me peace and that helps me feel better physically, emotionally, psychologically. Like it's really affected me positively in so many ways. Am I
Yeah.
perfect? No, because I'm still a work in progress, but I just love where I'm heading. And I don't see myself making any changes, I mean, other than positive changes from here on out.
Yeah, Priscilla, you've been doing this for less than a year.
Yeah.
That's nothing. Like, because I know you keep saying like,
Feels
you
like an
know,
eternity.
still a work in
Anyway.
progress. Yeah. I mean, it does feel like I've known you forever, but
Mhm.
like realistically, we've known each other for less than a year, right?
Yeah.
And you've been doing this for less than a year. Like, give yourself massive props, and I know you do for all the progress you've made. Like, just picture. I mean, although it feels like a long time, it also feels like it was yesterday, right? Like a
Yes.
year, it goes by quick. Like 5 years will go by quick, and it's exciting to know that you're going to be almost in a better position 5 years from now than you are now. Because
Yes.
I mean, the truth is that this health and fitness stuff, like progress takes time, right? Just because you do the right things doesn't mean that you're going to be in the health or shape that you want to overnight either. It takes time, it takes consistency. And unfortunately, like building muscle is super slow. I wish it was fast. I wish I was way more jacked than I am, but we'll get
Needs.
there eventually. Jokes aside, though, what have your like friends, family, colleagues? What do they say about your progress?
They love it. My family's always commenting and saying some really nice things to me. Like, I was really shocked because I do see them often, but not often enough. Like, I don't know. I see them every few weeks or so. I see some of them more often than others. And every time I see them, because I'm Latin, so they have to comment. It's just part of our culture. And, they're not saying you've gained some weight, they're telling you you've lost some weight. But I love it because at the same time, sometimes I need to hear that
Yeah,
because I see myself every day. And so I don't necessarily always see the changes. Once in a while, I'll catch myself in the mirror and I'm like, oh, I see what they're talking about now. Or I'll see myself in a photo or something and I'm like, oh, I see it. But I look at myself every day, so I don't see those changes. But for them to be able to comment and say, wow, you look better, and even when I vacationed with them and for them to be able to see me eating foods that would be forbidden on the prior diet I was on, like for them to see how much more lax I am with my food and just now recently commenting on my portion size, because that was a recent conversation, like, oh, we noticed you portioned out your food. I was like, yes, because it was not something that I could literally measure. I was measuring it in my head and going, oh, it's going to add up calories wise if I eat too much of that. So let's have a smaller portion. Right. But just being more conscious of my choices, like they're watching all of it and they're in amazement. And I'll be honest, I'm surprised that they're as receptive and as I don't know how to explain this, but that they're like cheering me on because in the past, every time I found something, they're like, okay, and if I were in their position, I'd be the same way. They're like, okay, let's see if this shit works, right? Like, all right, she said she found something new. And so I think they were a little skeptical at first, but because they saw the progress, because they've seen the changes and they've seen the shift in my demeanor, how I feel, my stance. Like even one day my sister saw me after a massage and she's like, wow, you're looking amazing. And I was like, thank you. She goes, wow, turn around. And I like turned around for her and showed her. And she's like, wow, you look so good. I wish you could see your back. Like it's so much smaller. And I was like, I wish I could see it too. And she's like, you want me to take a photo? I'm like, no, I believe you. So it's so nice because sometimes you need to hear that when you're not seeing it like on the scale, right? You
yeah,
need to hear those things, that encouragement to keep going. Like, hey, what you're doing, keep doing it. And to the point where my sister even helped invest in my little home gym. She helped me purchase it along with the weights that I now have so that I could lift and be stronger and be more jacked. Just kidding. Um, but yeah, I never expected that kind of support from my family, probably because in the past they were like, oh, she's trying something else again, like so
yeah.
I'm just so grateful for that support and that they see it because they're the eyes outside of me because I can't see it. But it does help me feel better. And that also helps to boost my self esteem a little bit. It makes me feel more confident. The next thing I probably need to work on is probably being more confident in the clothing that I wear, but it's also because I'm just not used to the body that I'm transforming into. So at some point I'll get there. But I don't see myself wearing like any like crop tops or like short shorts or anything like that in the near future. Like I'm very modest. So I'm probably still going to be awkward in my clothes, but I know what my limitations are and I know when I'm a work in progress, but I just love that they've been so supportive and that they've seen the changes and that they're like, wow, you're doing great. Whatever you're doing, just continue doing it. And I was just like, wow, this is the first time where I don't feel weird about choosing something that's different from what everybody else is doing.
Yeah. No, that's amazing, and the positive feedback always feels good, right? Like, we I don't know, I think as humans, we always say, like, "Oh, we're not doing this for other people, we're doing it for like, I'm doing it for me," and, like, yes, you're doing it for you, but it feels really good to get recognition. I'm happy you've been getting
Yeah.
that as well. Let me
Yeah.
ask you this: if somebody listening, resonates with your story and maybe they're in a similar position to where you were when you started, uh, what's one thing you would want them to know?
Wow. Um, it doesn't, you don't have to stay where you're at. So you coming across this was exactly what you needed to hear to help make you see that a year from now or less than a year from now, you can feel totally different and be a completely different person than when you started. It's so hard when we're in it and we're experiencing it in that moment because we can't see past the pain, the frustration, the anger, the resentment, whatever, all those feelings. Like we can't see past that. But if we could fast forward to 6 months, a year later and see the transition and all the changes we've implemented and how beautiful we feel and how much we're loving who we're becoming, I think you would not hesitate to do this. You would say, nope, sign me up. I wish I had signed up yesterday because that's exactly how I feel. I wish I had found this program like years ago. So I wouldn't have had to struggle. But again, I had to struggle and hear all this misinformation and try all the things, but I could find something that works and go, this works for me. I'm staying here. This is me. This is my people. Right. So I would just say find a program that resonates with you, find things that work for you, find something that you don't mind doing, which in this case we get to eat a lot of different foods, we get to do exercise, and we have a great community of people and amazing coaches that all every time we have a question or concern are in it to like help explain. Like having something like this is just wonderful and I would just say if they're on the fence on like whether to do something or not, just do it. Like honestly, if even if you wasted a couple of months, 6 months to a year trying something and it failed, at least you tried it. But I haven't seen anybody who's tried our program that has failed.
The
So
only people that I see fail are people that just quit on themselves, unfortunately, which it does happen, right?
yeah.
But
Maybe they weren't ready. So the other thing is you have to be ready. Like I always hear people say, like, we have to be ready to make those changes. Yeah, I was almost, I'm not going to say I was at rock bottom, but I was pretty close to rock bottom when I made that decision to go, okay, the shots haven't helped. I've tried all these diets. I've done all these things. None of this crap has worked. Like, uncle, like, what? Give me something that's going to work, And so I found something that worked and I'm like, yes, I found something that worked. Now I scream it from the tops, right? So you also have to be ready and willing to make those changes. You have to be willing to put in the work. If you're not willing to put in the work, you are going to fail. I'm
yeah,
sorry. Like there has to be some participation from the person who's wanting to make these changes. And I remember seeing a lot of posts online of people just saying, like, I was waiting for that aha moment that they all talk about. Like, I just knew I had to make a change. Like, I always hear that all the time. And then they went from, and they blossomed into this beautiful butterfly. They went from this being obese person to now this beautiful butterfly. But they don't talk about the struggles they experienced along the way, the times where they wanted to give up, the times that they almost jumped off the ledge and were like, sorry, this isn't for me, or the times where they struggled to fit in their exercise or prioritize their food or, anything like that. They don't talk about all that. They just talk about this is where I started, this is where I ended. But I would love to see more people be realistic along the way and say, yeah, I
absolutely.
have had struggles. Yeah, it hasn't been perfect. Yeah, I've made mistakes. And that's okay because I just started over the next day or I gave myself grace and I moved past it. Like I would love to see more vulnerable posts from people on the reality of their experience and that it's not always peaches. It's not always like unicorns and puppies, right? That it's sometimes there's some hard parts you have to get past. But that whole thing where you challenge me to get past my comfort zone and to get comfortable being uncomfortable was the most valuable piece of information you could give me when I started this program. And then Bernardo telling me I had unrealistic expectations of my weight loss, that slap in the face was necessary too, because as much as I didn't want to hear those things, he was right. You were right. Like, you guys aren't wrong. So that's all I would just say is like, be willing, be ready to do it. But also, if you embrace the process and you actually lean into it and you open yourself up to what's being suggested and you're being told to do and you follow it and you enjoy the process, you will see results.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Priscilla. And thank you for taking time to be here today as well. I really appreciate it. And in terms of, sharing a little bit more vulnerability and what the actual struggles are, like, I think that's what I really want to create with these interviews with people that are part of Fit for Life, because
Mhm.
I think it really helps for people who are listening to understand that the things they're struggling with are not unique,
Yeah.
right? Like, because that is what it feels like when you're struggling with something and maybe you don't share it because it's personal. It feels like you're the only one going through this. And I feel like everybody's story is slightly is different, right? Like your experiences are different than mine, they're different than the next person's, but there's commonality amongst the struggles. And what I hope to do with this is help people resonate with the struggles and understand that, oh, other people have gone through what I'm going through and have felt what I'm feeling, maybe even worse, and they've been able to make progress. So I should be able to too. So thank you for being open to sharing that with everybody listening today.
Thank you. I know. I was like, oh, you know how uncomfortable this kind of stuff makes me.
Mhm.
But I'm getting past it. I'm getting past it. And again, if it helps somebody make make a different choice, make a different decision, and it helps and helps them say, like, hey, I'm not alone. Oh my gosh, somebody else experienced it. 100%. That's the whole reason that I did this. Because at first I was like, I'm not gonna do this. He knows I don't like being on camera. But then I was like, you know what? I should do this because if it helps 1%, even just 1% make a different choice and choose their health and love themselves to move forward with it, then I'm happy with that. So let's see. I think we should offer like a code, Joey, like a discount code that says call Priscilla or Priscilla. So that how many people join because of me or because of my story. And then that way we know how many people resonated with one thing that I had to say.
Yeah, we'll have to work on that. Jokes aside,
I
uh,
know.
again, just thank you, Priscilla, for being here. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Awesome. Thanks, Joey. It's been a pleasure and I appreciate you having me.
Alrighty, guys, let's go ahead and wrap this up. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope that Priscilla's story really resonated with you and that you took some value from it and some action items or things that you can start implementing, habits that you can start implementing and focusing on to help you improve your health and fitness. With that said, if you are interested in potentially working with us, you can head over to fitforlifeacademy.health. The link is down in the description or the caption of this video slash podcast episode, depending on whether you're tuning in via audio or on YouTube. Go down to the description, click on the link, and just submit an application. I review all the applications personally. If it's not me, it's somebody on my team. And then we'll hop on a call to see what your goals are, if we can help you, and whether or not we're a good fit. I look forward to hopefully connecting with some of you. And if not, I hope you enjoyed the episode, and I'll catch you next week.